You may know me as most recently as the founder of Apstra, but given that recently I got an expanded role focusing on the data center, all of the data center products for Juniper, what I thought is talk more about the data center and all of the things we're bringing as in Juniper to the table when it comes to really solving problems for our data center customers. And so that's going to be the focus today, and we're going to also showcase a bunch of those capabilities, throughout the session. And so, but before I jump in, what I thought I'd do is kind of step back and talk about the evolution of the data center. And coincidentally, I'm starting in September of 1995, which is when actually I came to the US to attend Stanford. And that was coincidentally the same month where Netscape actually went IPO. If you recall, at the time, if you were there, it was a crazy time where every company was kind of rushing to go online. Websites were popping up everywhere, and so networking became like the thing. Cisco, which stock was kind of stagnating for many years prior, just exploded. And this is where Juniper actually was also founded during that same time to actually deliver on the products to support all of this traffic explosion that we were seeing. And at the time, these data centers started spurring everywhere. And, most applications were quite simple, client server. And so you had these architectures, which were more like north-south architecture, if you recall, the access distribution core, which were kind of like the staple of the data center architecture of the time, kind of led by Cisco. Fast forward a few years, around 2005, I would say, we had kind of a transition from what were simpler services to more complex services, more interesting offerings, the start of the cloud, right? With companies, of course, like Google, but then also Amazon, and then actual public cloud, which with AWS and Azure. And so for these networks and for these applications, the application itself, the architecture of the application changed. It used to be that you ask the server for a request and then you just get a response. With these applications, they became more distributed, and so for every request that you had, there was a lot more chatter between the servers. And so we kind of moved from what were north-south application or the infrastructure or architectures to like these east-west architectures. And so from the access distribution core to like what is referred to as leaf spine or leaf spine, super spine, that support a lot more east-west traffic within the data center. At the time, I was at a company that joined a company early called Arista. And arguably we led the way in kind of this transition to these leaf spine architectures. And so that was in 2005. And with every one of those evolutions, we see more explosion in traffic and in networking traffic. Then, the next moment that is kind of seminal is when, of course, the iPhone was released. And that's when everyone realized that actually, we can have apps on these phones, and then with these apps, anything that in the past you had to go somewhere to do or to be in front of your computer, you actually could do it right there from your phone. Whether it's calling a taxi or video conferencing with your work, or watching a movie, or transacting online, buying something, or doing a financial transaction. Everything you can think of, you can do now with your phone, which means that think about it, for everything you do, you're touching a data center somewhere, you're touching a network somewhere. So these networks not only were growing massively in size, and they were getting more complex, but they were becoming critical to everything we do. The networks are the foundation for everything we do. This is the phenomena that is referred to as digital transformation. And the thing about digital transformation is that it has networking at its core. certainly with the pandemic that everyone went through, this process has completely accelerated. And I would say Gartner said it best when they made this comment, which is that in order to succeed at digital transformation, you have to transform your network first. If you don't, then you're 3 times more likely to fail at your digital transformation. And that was kind of the impetus for us actually starting a company called Apstra. That was back in 2014. And the goal was really to transform the network, to transform network operations so that you no longer have to manually operate your network. We wanted a network that really looks and feels and is operated like a cloud. And so in order to do that, we invented this thing called intent-based networking. The key there was that at the end, we wanted network operators, we want to give them the ability not only to move fast at the speed of the business, but to do it with utmost reliability. Reliability was really the key. We wanted the network operator to trust the software to run the network better than they would themselves. Actually, in order of magnitude better. The same way an autopilot flies a plane much more reliably than the pilot themselves. And so fast forward to today, we were acquired by Juniper. We're deployed across companies in more than 70 countries, making a difference every day. 83% reduction in OPEX, multifold improvements in reliability. Essentially, our customers are getting the value of this simplicity, the value of this reliability every day. These are a few of our customers. We have many, many more. And so you would think, okay, so is that it? Is there any more inflection points? And well, over the last few years, and certainly the moment that really captured everyone's attention with ChatGPT back in 2022, is the advent of AI ML. And yet another inflection point, yet another explosion of traffic. AI is, of course, captured the imagination of everyone. It's relevant to everyone. We're all using it today. But what's critical about AI and what's really interesting about AI is the kind of what it takes for the network and for the infrastructure and for the data centers to support all of the AI applications that all organizations want to use AI for. Essentially, there was this blog from Andreessen Horowitz, which I thought was really interesting, where they were kind of looking at where is the value chain for AI? Who's going to make the most? Where is the golden opportunity? And at the end, of course, AI is going to have a large value chain. There's going to be lots of opportunity for everyone. But one thing that is 100% clear is that it's going to, at the end, we're going to need infrastructure. Infrastructure is going to be, the guaranteed benefactor of AI. Not just the GPUs, but also the network. We're going to have to need to reinvent the network to support these AI applications. And if you look at it, then the data center traffic or the number of data center devices, whichever way you want to measure it, essentially is just growing and growing through every one of these inflection points. And you can see here how AI ML is kind of driving this new traffic growth within data center. And so at the end, my message is data center networking is thriving. It continues to be relevant. It continues to be core and critical to everything we do. And of course, at Juniper, we're very interested in this opportunity. We'd love to make a difference in the life of our data center customers. And so then let me tell you a bit about Juniper and what we do here when it comes to the data center. Well, first of all, we're very much relevant in the data center market. And we focus, I would say, on large enterprises, cloud customers, and more recently, we're very focused on the AI ML data center opportunity, which actually cuts both across large enterprise and cloud. Both enterprises and cloud are building these AI ML data centers. And so what products do we deliver for those customers? at the basic level, we have switches, which are kind of like the building blocks for data center networks. But then also we have the operations software, which at its foundation leverages and utilizes Apstra, both on-prem and more and more in the cloud. But then, Juniper is not just a data center company. Juniper, while we're 100% focused on networking, that's all we do. We have an entire portfolio. We actually have an end-to-end portfolio all the way from campus to WAN and to security. And so that's kind of one of the benefits, is that we can leverage this extended portfolio when we deliver data center solutions to our customers, adding on the gateways, the security, many virtual devices, device options, and we'll get back to that. But essentially, again, with Juniper, while we, as in our business units, focused on data center, Juniper has the portfolio in networking solutions end to end. So, talking about these devices, we have a whole portfolio. We have shallow buffer devices that are relevant for many applications, including AI/ML applications. For the high end, we also have deep buffer applications. We have merchant silicon. We also have our own investment in our own silicon. And one thing we're doing is that we're boosting our switching portfolio for AI/ML. We actually launched recently the Tomahawk 4 switches, and this is kind of the start of many more products that we're going to be delivering, focusing on AI/ML. And so that's kind of the basics. Now, how do we differentiate? What is it that we do differently than our competitors? And when I think of differentiators, the way I like to think about it is what problems we're solving for our customers uniquely. And what I'd say is that there are three pillars for our differentiation. One is operations, and this is something we're going to be talking about a lot today. Second is openness, and third is end-to-end solutions. So let me talk about these, starting with operations. So with operations, as I said, Apstra was the foundation. And what we did with Apstra is this intent-based deterministic control. Essentially, it's software that runs your data center network day in and day out with the speed to meet the business requirement and with utmost reliability. Essentially, you want to trust your software to run your network. That is kind of the foundation for our data center operations strategy. Now, in addition to intent-based, and so that's intent-based. So now, in addition to intent-based, what we're doing is that we're adding other pillars to really kind of deliver more value than anyone, to really help our network operators operate their data center with the simplicity of the cloud, in fact, with the utmost confidence. And so, in addition to AI, we're adding in addition to intent-based, we're adding in AI. And so the way to think of it is that intent-based really gives you this deterministic control. There is no room for probability when it comes to running your data center. The same way an autopilot runs a plane, when you tell it to go to 10,000 feet, you want it to go to 10,000 feet deterministically. That's essentially what intent-based means. But while we're running the network with this intent-based approach, we're collecting tons of telemetry, and this telemetry can be used. And so what we do is that we ship it to third-party platforms, but one of the platforms is one that Juniper has, which is Marvis. We have our own AIOps layer, which essentially is a conversational interface, but also a data lake. And there we can, by sending all of the traffic there and having the whole historical perspective, by applying AI, you can now deliver probabilistic insights. And so with intent-based, you get tenfold improvement in reliability. You get a 90% reduction in operating expenses. But then when you also add AI, then what we have proven is that we can also reduce the time to troubleshoot problems, reduce the number of tickets by up to 90 to 95%. And so by marrying this intent-based approach, which is deterministic, with the probabilistic AI/ML approach, essentially we're differentiating from everyone else and adding that much more value to our customers.
One thing, Mansour, and thank you, it's great so far. I love it. I would love to see as we get into looking at it, when we talk about managing, deterministic, probabilistic, but also human-driven, the important part here is like AI can tell us what traffic is doing. It can see app awareness. All this stuff is great, but there's like business proprietary, sort of tribal knowledge that sometimes we have. I would love to see in product kind of like how we can influence determinism and sort of like drive the Bayesian inference with a little bit of human good.
You're right ahead of me.
All right, I want to make sure.
This is awesome because it's exactly what I was going to add right here, and actually we're going to show some of it today. The third pillar, and so like to answer your question, the third pillar, and you talked about it, the app awareness. We want to bring in the app awareness at the end for infrastructure. The key asset is the app, right? What network operators want to know is how is the network performing for the app, and we want to be as discerning as possible. And to your point, some of these requirements are very bespoke to the specific customer. And so what we need to do is also have flexibility in how we kind of put together these tests that leverage all of this data so that we distill an answer that a specific customer cares about. And so we're going to show some of it today in terms of like the flexibility of how you can build tests. But at the core of it is you need to have the flow information. And that's something we just added today. We added recently, we launched it recently, the Apstra flow data. That's the most contextual, most comprehensive flow telemetry of any data center operations software on the market. And the reason, again, is because we want to combine intent-based AI and application awareness together and then have the ability to run tests to be the most discerning in terms of whether or not the network is working well for this specific app, for this specific use case. Okay, and again, we're going to be showing more on this particular point today. So that is operations, and this is very consistent with Juniper's overarching strategy, experience first, leading with operations, which is why they acquired Apstra. This is why they acquired Mist, and that's an area of core competency where we're going to continue to invest. The second pillar of the Juniper data center differentiation is openness. Essentially, the promise of networking was that it is open. The networking is so critical. This is why we have standards. We don't want to be locked into one specific vendor. This is why we've created things like BGP and EPN VXLAN. And so we at Juniper, that's always been part of the DNA because Juniper kind of was founded as a challenger to the incumbent and continues to be a challenger. And at Apstra, that was a core pillar. We wanted to deliver a solution that is multi-vendor. And so although we were acquired by Juniper, we're continuing down that path. We support not only Juniper, but also switches from many of the other switch suppliers out there in the market, all of the incumbents and the leading ones. And so if you deploy Juniper operations, then you can bring in not only Juniper devices, but Juniper devices from the rest of the suppliers. And so, and when we say that it's multi-vendor, we don't just mean that we support it, but we also make sure it works well. So at the end, we're kind of giving you that same level of reliability independently of your vendor choice. So that's one aspect of openness, which is unique to Juniper. None of our competitors has. The other aspect to openness is that, at the end, we're part of an ecosystem. This solution is part of an ecosystem and needs to work well in the context of this ecosystem. So we have open APIs, both with our software, with Apstra, but also with all of the devices that we deliver. And we have integrations with platforms and solutions, whether it's overlay solutions or net DevOps solutions, security, etc., solutions that are available on the market. And one of the tools that has become very popular to manage data center and cloud environments is Terraform. And one of the things we're going to showcase today is an integration with Terraform as kind of a unified tool to manage your data center network through Apstra, but also your public cloud. So that's openness. And the third is end-to-end solutions. And this is how kind of it all comes together. We're kind of taking, as I mentioned, Juniper is a company that has not only focuses on networking, but has the entire portfolio. And so we want to really bring this to bear. So instead of selling products to our customers, what we want is to deliver outcomes, to deliver solutions. And so whether customers think about what use cases they have, are they trying to build an AI training cluster or a VMware data center? Are they building an east-west 3-stage class, a 5-stage class network? Is it an edge data center? Whatever their use case is, what we want to do is deliver a solution. And what we mean with a solution is a reference design that includes the devices themselves, the topology, how they're interconnected, what protocols they use, what software manages them, of course, primarily at its core, Apstra. But not only that, we also are bringing in the routers, the gateways, the firewalls as part of the design. You can use Juniper devices, but also you can bring in devices from the competition. And then what we want to do is give it to you in a way that is tested end to end, so you know it's going to work. And so we're kind of going to be leading with this validated designs because, while some customers are interested in kind of tailoring their solutions, having some bespoke designs, most customers want solutions that just work end to end. And that is what at Juniper we want to deliver for them. And in fact, one of the things we're going to show today is how we can easily deploy, build, and operate an AI cluster using Apstra, essentially delivering on this validated design for an AI cluster. And so,
what did you mean for troubleshooting? Or better, what is the context of troubleshooting, which is when the AI and ML considering a trouble when I'm shooting the trouble. So if it's something proactive or deterministic, as he told, and what if I already know that the network will be busy because I have streaming, so I know that it's busy, but the troubleshooting made up from Apstra could consider this an anomaly, but I've been
so when we say, typically with troubleshooting, you're troubleshooting an issue with an application. Like generally, your application is not working well, right? And
okay.
Usually when you're part of the networking team, you're trying to figure out whether or not something that's under your control is at fault, right? Whether the network is at fault. And if with Apstra, if you have all of the knowledge of all of the pieces, then you can deterministically say, hey, there is a problem here or there. But in many cases, you don't have all of that knowledge, especially when you're looking at a multi-domain infrastructure. When you're kind of looking at the problem and you're not sure whether it's really in the data center or whether it's somewhere on the WAN side. Or in fact, you're not even sure whether it's on the, it's within the network infrastructure itself. And so when you have the knowledge, you can use a deterministic approach. But if you don't have all of the knowledge, then by looking at your historical data and applying AI models to your data lake, all of the telemetry that you have throughout the history, then these AI models have the ability to kind of point you in the right direction, right? Essentially, you look at all of the knowledge that you have over time, and you have an ability to go and say, okay, well, probabilistically, I believe that the problem is likely to be around there, right? And so it kind of helps you, guide you. It's not guaranteed, it's not deterministic, but it guides you, right?
Okay, that's clear. Thank you. Yeah, so it's driven by AI and ML, so that it will prepare dynamically some kind of templates to say this is wrong or this is acting correctly and so on. Is it right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.